and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. Today, I got a couple of gig sub stories to tell you guys. Sub gigs from hell, because there has been many to choose from. I have so many of these stories to tell, but I could only narrow it down. I had to pick two. So I decided to pick these two stories to let you guys know about sub gigs from hell. So the first sub gig, basically I got through an agent. Now, when you get sub gigs through agents, sometimes you just, well, not sometimes, every time, you don't know what you're getting into. Because what the agent tells you is based on what he's been told by the band leader, most likely. So the band leader, well, they're going to BS them. Oh yeah, everything's fine. Do this, do that. And, they're just going to say everything's great and it's going to be a great gig and it's going to be easy and this and that, because they need somebody. They're desperate. They need a drummer. They need a sub. So in this particular case, I found out that I was subbing a week before and there was basically going to be no rehearsal except a phone call. And the phone call was with the band leader just to discuss things. And right away on that phone call, the agent gives me the gig, talks me into it. Because at first I hum and haw a little bit with the agent sub gigs. But, it paid decently. It wasn't too ridiculously far away. So I thought, okay, I'll do this gig. Anyways, he then says, okay, the band leader wants to call you, give me some times. I'll give him the times you're available, and then you guys can sort it out from there. Okay, no problem. So I give him some times, whatever, and then he passes that on to the band leader. Band leader arranges a time to meet me. Now, this is pre-Zoom and all that, so this is a phone call. So he calls me up, and right away, 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm starting to have some reservations about this gig, because the band leader was the manager of the band and he was a wrestling promoter. Now, nothing against wrestling promoters. That's what he does for a living, but those guys are always shady. They've always got their hands in many different pots. Anytime I've been involved with those type of people in terms of gigs, they're always difficult. And it turns out it was his daughter that was the singer in the band, but he managed and ran the band. He was not a musician, quite frankly, knew nothing about music, but pretends like he knows about music. Anyways, in this conversation, it was just barking orders. Dress like this. Don't do this. Don't show up like this. You have to play in a certain way. Don't overplay. You got to play quiet. Like, it was a list of demands. It was one thing after another, a list of demands. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be one of those diva, difficult gigs. There's no way I'm going to make this guy happy. And I'm sure his daughter is just like him, if not worse. Anyways, I finally, at the end, I agree to everything, I mean, there was some discussion, and at times it got a little bit heated, because I'm just not going to put up with this crap from people, especially when I'm a sub. I kept pointing out to them, you guys aren't providing me with charts. You're not providing me with a rehearsal. I have to do up all my own charts, and you're telling me that some of the arrangements, the endings are different, so I have to figure out the ending on the fly. Oh yeah, just take cues from, the band. Well, okay, but that can be tricky sometimes, taking cues, because sometimes people who, they develop their own way of cueing other musicians because they're used to playing with them. When you're a sub, and I never played with this band before, it's going to be tricky. Okay, so I show up to the gig. Now, the actual gig was actually a decent gig. It wasn't a crappy gig. It was kind of a higher end hotel, kind of a corporate gig. And so I show up, I meet everybody, band's fine, bass player seems like an all right guy, whatever. Then the diva shows up and she meets me, and she was fine at first. And then her dad showed up and he was just on me like a hawk. He showed me exactly where he wanted me to set up, which is no problem. That's quite normal. But he kept telling me, make sure that you are, in this particular corner, like he didn't want me to be this much forward or this much to the right or this much to the left. It was like he had it all mapped out. So right away, I'm thinking, this is a micromanaged by the dad gig. And boy, was I right. This guy was unbelievable. So there's speeches and stuff at this function. It's like a work function, and they're giving out awards and whatever. And so we had to do things accompanying these speeches, the ga when somebody tells a joke and whatever. I was unaware of that until I actually got there. No big deal. Did that, but I had to do that. And one guy was just telling the stupidest jokes you've ever heard. And I had to put up with ba-da-doom-ga over and over. But anyway, gig starts. It's like top 40, pop, some rock, whatever. Most of the stuff I already know. I pre-charted out a lot of stuff. I always like to be prepared. And I look over to the stairs, because it was a stage that had stairs coming up on the side, which led right to the drum kit. I look over at the stairs, and what do I see but the frickin' dad manager midget guy wrestling, just standing there watching me like a hawk. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is unbelievable. Now, he wasn't stressing me out, but he was annoying. He wasn't making me nervous, but he was making me kind of like, man, this isn't going to be very much fun. It's literally a job. So, we get through a few songs, and I kind of fumbled through a couple of the endings because they just weren't the same endings. They extended the endings. Also, some of the arrangements got altered based off my chart. Like I wrote a chart, you have a song where it follows a certain flow in a certain form, AABA form or verse, chorus, bridge, whatever the form is. Anyways, the forms kept changing based on what her whim was. And after the first break, the dad comes up to me and says, you've got to follow her more. You got to follow her. You're not following her enough. And I'm like, well, I don't know where she's going to go. How am I supposed to follow somebody when I don't know what she's doing? She kept doing this signal and that signal, which I know means extend, but she was extending in weird spots. It wasn't just a chorus. Quite often, this means do the chorus again, double up the chorus. I get it. No problem. But she would do it in strange places. In how some songs have like an interval, or what I call a segue, where there's like a 2, 3, 4 bar section, which sort of is a bridge. It's not a bridge in a musical bridge. It's a bridge in the sense that it's a path to leading to the next section. So quite often at the end of choruses, you'll have this little section that just sets up the next section. Okay. Well, she would double up those sections. And I'm like, why is she doubling up the segue section? Nobody ever does that. So that was odd. Anyways, no problem. Got through it. Okay. It was a 3-set night. End of the second set, again, the dad is on me about stupid things. You're playing too loud. You're playing too loud. And he starts handing me towels. And I'm like, dude, I'm not putting towels on my drums. Forget that. I said, this isn't a studio situation. Well, your snare drum's too loud and whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, let me control that on my own. I'm not putting a towel on the drum. It's just something that I won't do. Now, if I know ahead of time, you got to play quiet. You got to play really dynamically based on the venue or what the people want. People are eating, they're talking, whatever. Play quiet. I get it. But I am not putting towels on my drums because this guy tells me to do it over halfway through the gig. Oh, you're too loud. You're going to have to put towels on the drum. Forget it. That isn't happening. So right away, we're butting, excuse me. So now we're butting heads. We're not getting along. He's getting angry at me because I'm listening or not listening to him. It was just one of those nights where I felt like I was just being hassled and harassed the whole night. It just wasn't worth the money. Needless to say, after that gig, I told the agent about this. I said it was a gig from hell. Don't even tell me or ask me to do this gig again. Forget it. Then I find out, too late, the gig is over, that the reason I was subbing is because they cannot keep a drummer. They somehow managed to keep a keyboard player, a bassist, a guitarist, backup singers, and of course, the girl that is the head of the band, but she's the daughter, so obviously she's not going anywhere. But they couldn't keep drummers for whatever reason. The dad just had it on for drummers. And if I had known that there actually is no drummer in the band and that they constantly just hire subs, if I had known that, I would not have taken the gig. That was a terrible gig. I didn't have any fun. The vibe was difficult. It was a downer vibe. I didn't enjoy playing with the band. The band was okay, but I just didn't. Nobody was friendly to me. There was no fun. You could tell everybody was miserable in this band because of the way that it's run. Of course, the dad on me the whole time. It was a gig from hell. So, all right. Needless to say, I did not do another gig with them. It was a one-off, and I also told the agent to scratch his name and that band off my list of anyone that I'm going to sub for. Okay, now, I did another sub gig, and I was asked by somebody in the band, that knew me. Hey, Tim, we got this Valentine's Day gig coming up. Can you sub in for us? The drummer can't make it. Okay, no problem. It was actually a high-paying gig. It was a good corporate gig, paid really well, and a rehearsal. So went to 2 rehearsals, and the rehearsals were decent. Very, very slow songs. It was all ballads, and everything was in Italian. It was kind of like it was an Italian wedding band kind of a gig, but it wasn't a wedding. It was Valentine's. And I did not know any of the songs because they're all Italian, except for That's Amore, that Dean Martin song. That's Amore, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie. That's Amore. That was the only one I think I knew. In terms of the Italian stuff, there was a few ballad songs that I knew. Ballads are hard to play, and you got to be really dynamic with ballads. And that's a situation where you don't want to be overbearing and overpowering. And I knew this going in. At the rehearsal, I kept getting told, you're playing too loud. Now, I am not a loud player. I remember in the band that I was in before, Clean Slate, that I was the boss, but the guitar player used to joke around with me and call me Pillow Hands, because I'm soft. I don't slam that snare. I mean, if I'm playing outdoors and you can play louder, yeah, you're going to play louder. But generally speaking, the majority of the gigs that I do are indoors, and there's different sounds that you're going to have in sound check, and you want to make sure that the sound is right. And I always play for the band. I never play for me or my ego. I always play for the music and the band. Anyways, she kept telling me to play quieter. Okay. Maybe you should use brushes and whatnot. And I'm like, well, some of the songs require brushes, but some of the jazz stuff, the Tony Bennett, or sorry, not Tony Bennett, some of that Frank Sinatra stuff, it's a big band. Even though this isn't a big band, she's taken the arrangement of a big band and shoved it into a 6-piece band. But she wants me to play quiet, but it's a big band arrangement. The shots are usually loud. Anyways, no worries. I used to play in a Frank Sinatra tribute band. The Frank Sinatra stuff and the jazz stuff, no problem. I'm very familiar with that type of thing. It wasn't too bad, you know, she wasn't really complaining a lot. She was pleasant, but she was demanding. And you could tell she's another one of these divas. You could just tell. So again, I'm told what to wear. I'm told what time to be there, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Of course, you got to be told what time to be there. But, you know, just another list of demands. Now, this gig actually happened before that nightmare gig that I told you about first. So the day comes around for the gig, only 2 rehearsals, gig comes up, it's Valentine's, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, it was the most boring gig I ever played. Because every song, there was nothing over 80 beats per minute. It was a dreaded gig in the sense that everything was slow. Every song was a ballad. And I knew this going in, but I just didn't realize how the audience was going to take it. The audience just did not take it too well. Even though it was a Valentine's gig, there was lots of slow dancing. There was people slow dancing. But I had a lady come up to me on a break and she laughed. I laughed. She says, I can tell you're just busting to break out into a faster tempo song and you want to rock. And I was like, yes, you are correct. Every song was just so slow. The drum parts were boring. I'm not going to lie. You know, I was happy that I was making good money and that I was there and I did my thing and put on a brave face and smiled at everybody. But it was one of the most boring gigs I ever did. The singer was difficult throughout the show, very diva-like. I was struggling because all the songs are in Italian, and I kept saying to the bass player, is this the one that starts with the 6/8 feel? Is this the one that starts with me playing the groove? Like, I just didn't know the songs, and it's partially my fault, but the songs were all foreign to me. They're almost all in odd times, which is fine. I have no problem playing odd times, but they're all in odd times and unfamiliarity. So it's not like a gig where I'm, familiar with most of the songs and I can just sort of even fake my way through. Nobody knows the difference. In this case, I didn't know the songs. And because of that, I was struggling. I did chart everything, but I think I was speeding up a little bit and it's ballady and I'm a rusher naturally. I've gotten that under control, but with metronome practice and playing hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of gigs with a click live, plus all the studio work and whatever, I can handle a click. But this was quite a long time ago when I was still developing I wasn't playing with a click on this gig, and I was still developing in terms of tempo. So this has got to be 25, 30 years ago. It's quite a long time ago. And, I just struggled with the whole thing. It was boring. The audience wasn't really too interested, mainly talking, the odd dancing. Because there was nothing fast paced, the audience was they sat and watched us kind of bored all night. And it was a pretty lame gig. Now, I didn't feel the stress that I felt in the first story, but I just felt blah, and gigs like that, they really suck when you're just not motivated and you're not into it. The band was okay, but like I said, just the selection of songs was terrible. I didn't like hardly any of the music. It just wasn't my thing. I took the gig for the money. Sorry, guys, not going to lie. Took the gig because I was helping my friend as well. That's the secondary reason. And it paid well. Anyways, I got through the gig. She paid me. Everything was fine. She thanked me. But again, I was not interested in returning to that sub gig. Guys, sometimes sub gigs, you just don't know what you're getting into. On the flip side, I'm not going to get into it because I was only telling 2 stories, but I've done sub gigs where it was fine. Everything worked out fine. Everyone was happy. And then I've done sub gigs, which I'm not going to get into because I'm only telling 2 stories, as I said. But I've done other sub gigs where it was just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, And today I just wanted to tell you 2 diva type of sub gig nightmare stories. So that's the 2. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Guys, I am trying to grow my channel. So if you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, sharing, etc., etc. And if you're not subscribed and you want to hear lots of interesting things, I tell stories about gigs that I've done and just life as a musician. I do the odd gear review. I do the odd drum teacher reaction video. I do some playing. I do lots of teaching. There's lots and lots of things on this channel. So if drumming and music is your bag, why not subscribe? Thanks very much for watching, guys. And as always, keep drumming. See ya.